Hello, Space Junkies, and welcome to What a Piece of Junk, the Star Wars podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network. I'm your host, Scott Maltman, and with me, this time literally, is Mr. Nathan Miracle, our very own Gooey Chewy. Nathan, what's up?
Doing well. Yes, made it all the way out to, about an hour and a half away from where I live. So not that far, but, hey, I was in the town today, and we said, well, why not just podcast live in person?
It also gave me a good excuse to finally pull the trigger on purchasing this excellent Blue Yeti Nano microphone, which Commander Kyle uses often on the FPN. But you know who else has a great microphone from our friends at Blue? Why, it's Mr. Derek Morrish. Derek, how's it going?
Well, you would know it's good. You recommended that my wife buy it for my birthday a few years back when we first started this. So
yeah, and it worked out great.
It has. Well, and I'm good. And I know it's been feeling like a while since we recorded because it's been literally more than a week. Just because we recorded this prior last episode to normal Sundays, like we are back on schedule now because of the Easter holiday. And I have to ask you guys a quick question because I know you guys are both men of faith and celebrate Easter. Was Jesus's tomb the original Bacta tank?
Ooh, good question.
No liquid in it.
Philosophically, I will say maybe metaphorically, but theologically, no, because there was no magical liquid to help him out. It was all his own godlike powers. In this case, God powers, not even godlike.
Although I will point out, today is actually Easter in the Greek Orthodox tradition.
So when St. Peter and all those guys celebrated Easter, they did it today, not when we do it, because they were all Greek Orthodox, because there was no such thing as the Roman Catholic Church. Okay, all right.
I have no rebuttal for that.
That's a whole different podcast.
We're on a whole different podcast.
But you know who could talk to us about ancient ways? Why, it's Admiral Snack Bar, Mr. Lee Fillingsness. Lee, how's it going?
Christos Anesti, that Christ is risen for all the Greek Orthodox people out there. That is where my family's from.
I knew you would know.
I grew up in a Greek Orthodox family. Oddly, the Greek Orthodox Church and the Roman Catholic Church did not pre-exist one or the other. It was a council that, and oddly enough, a lot of the argument was about when to celebrate Easter. The true-ish reason to do Easter would be to follow the Jewish calendar of Passover.
Yes.
So because one is following Passover almost completely every time, whereas the Greek and Eastern Orthodox tradition goes otherwise. And that is why you tune into What a Piece of Junk to hear the minutia of religious doctrine, everybody. Yay!
I'll rope us back in. Speaking of ancient tomes, we just found out at Star Wars Celebration this week we're getting a new movie with Rey, and she's going to base a new Jedi Order on the ancient tomes that she got from Luke on Ahch-To in the tree before it got set on fire by Yoda's Force lightning from beyond the grave.
Yeah. Well, she stole the books anyways.
She did, yes.
Yeah, she did not use her library card, and she did not plan on returning them.
She did not.
Well, if she planned on returning them, that didn't work.
Yeah, the library
was no longer there.
And I don't think Luke was going to file a claim on them because he was, going to destroy them anyway. So victimless crime.
Well, he pieced out anyways. He didn't care. He was tired of being underpaid and underprivileged as a public servant of the Ahch-To public library. So
yes. But anyway, so as you guys can tell, we are all over the map tonight on this episode because there has been so much Star Wars stuff happening since we last recorded, not the least of which was Star Wars Celebration Europe. Derek, you've done a great job of making a nice outline for us. So I'm going to let you run the ship, as it were, because it's hard for Nathan to do that in the same seat at the same time. So, Derek, go ahead and take us away with some guided discussion about Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah, so obviously a ton of news that hit. I'm not going to go through all the little bit stuff. I really wanted us to kind of hit the 6 or 7 major things. Don't worry, those that tuned in to talk about the Mandalorian season 3, episode 7, chapter 23, the Spies. We'll get to that after break. There's just so much great news and stuff that hit up, so we'll hit that after. But first is I think the biggest bombshell, even though the second maybe the tie of what Scott was talking about with the return of Rey, but that is quote unquote been there, done there before with all the other movies that still have not happened. So I'd rather us hit this, which we actually got a trailer for, which was the Ahsoka. So guys, let's talk about this Ahsoka trailer. I peed a little bit, I'll be honest. I was super excited after watching this. I've watched it about 10 times that day. And I watched it again too the next day when the extra trailer got leaked. We actually got to see Sabine. We got to see Hera, which is Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Winstead.
Yeah, I wanted to say Olsen for a second because that's the other one.
not
Elizabeth.
Oh man.
Winstead. And then obviously, if you haven't seen the leaked trailer, which I don't even know if it's still out there or not, but we did get the back of Thrawn's head as he, they get to talk about it. And we got to see the magistrate again. And then if you did see the leaked trailer, you get to actually see Lars Mikkelsen, which we knew was basically announced to be in the show. We assumed was going to be part of Ahsoka and was going to actually play Thrawn. But again, that was kind of all rumors and what you were hearing and him being tied to it. But then it was legit when he came out on the panel. So super stuff. But other than me kind of just not wanting to go line by line of the trailer, let's talk about it, guys. So Lee, I'm assuming you saw the trailer. What were some of the big standouts for you?
I don't know. I didn't know. Honestly,
There was a trailer? What?
You peed your pants. I pretty much crapped my pants as soon as I saw Ray Stevenson as a Force user with a lightsaber. I've been a huge fan of his ever since Rome, which I watched every week when it came out. I've got it on Blu-ray back there. Just magnificent actor. In a lot of ways unappreciated for the depth that he can get to, because he's just, speaking as a big guy actor, that's all we're allowed to play, but he's amazing. I think he's the best modern Punisher. I know for a fact that he could kick the absolute snot out of the Daredevil Punisher. But there's just so much cool going on there. I loved watching the fights. I will say that the move where he kind of forces Ahsoka back and she throws her foot on the wall, I actually had that in a fight 2 years ago. So if anybody sees that fight, because I'm sure everyone's rushing out to do it, I came up with it first. But I just, I'm pretty sure they were flying over Lothal. I really like that we're getting the Jedi shuttle in live action for the first time, because that's always been kind of a weird but cool thing. All around, I'm excited for this series.
Nathan, Scott, what do you guys got?
Well, for me, in an effort to protect my underwear, I only watched the trailer once. But that didn't help all that much when there was one particular line, and I'm sorry, Scott, I'm going to steal your thunder here because I know this line got you as well, that Ahsoka is looking for the heir to the Empire.
Such a great line.
Oh, as soon as I heard that, I thought everything we've been predicting is going to come true.
Yeah.
In a certain point of view.
In a certain point of view. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's kind of understood. Yes, yeah.
And Timothy Zahn is ready to cash in those checks.
Yes, he is, and rightfully so.
Yes,
one of the best Star Wars authors ever.
Zahn.
So good. I solved the defecation problem by just watching the trailer naked. So, I mean, there's nothing to worry about.
Picture it, everybody. Picture it.
Now was that in the apartment, or was that in your dome that has not been built yet? I mean, you're doing it in the middle of the woods.
It was out in the woods. There you go. No, but seriously, I watched the trailer multiple times and had a tear in my eye. I was not having those issues. More emotional response, both to that line from Ahsoka and just seeing more of Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka in live action and seeing even more of her fighting. I loved the scenes where she was fighting those droids, because we saw one of those guard droids for Magistrate Elspeth, something like that. The Magistrate, we saw her with those guards on that planet where Michael Biehn was, but we didn't really see the droid fight. And now we got to see Ahsoka is going to fight some of those droids, so that was super cool. And the new Sith apprentice, I guess maybe not Sith, but the new apprentice to Balon was awesome.
Shin
Hati, or Hati. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I did watch it multiple times with the closed captioning on. So, we like to do that as a way to sort of cheat to look for names. So that's where I saw Balin's name and I saw her name as well. And then, of course, because I guess they knew that those were in the closed captioning, Lucasfilm did come out with some articles a few days later that talked about those two characters and told us their names. And I did see Dave Filoni. You already know this because, of course, you do. Dave Filoni was talking about the lightsabers are actually orangish.
Yes.
So, Derek, you get 25 quatlus because you corrected me about the color in our Facebook chat as we were preparing for tonight's podcast back when the trailer first came out. And I was like, I think they're just supposed to be red. Why would they bother to introduce more lightsaber colors? But suspiciously, Nathan did not chime in on that discussion about lightsaber color until much later, almost as if he already knew. And the Dave Network was telling him, you cannot spoil this.
It's because I'm a big fan of the Tennessee Volunteers, so I
don't want orange to
subconsciously sent brainwaves to Dave to make orange lightsabers so that I can cosplay as one of these characters while going to a Tennessee football game.
I was happy to see some of the older characters in the trailer so that now I might have a cosplay I can do as an old white guy.
Well, we got to see Senator Mon Mothma, or whatever her title is now in the afterworld.
Probably Chancellor?
I don't remember.
I think that's right.
Did she get Chancellor? Yeah. Okay.
I think that's right. I'm not 100% sure.
In when they went to Navarro in season 2, the droid was saying that the home of the New Republic was now in Chandrilla, or that's where the Chancellor is from. So she's Chandrillan. So maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So probably Chancellor. I can't remember what bloodlines or what they were saying her title was. So
yeah. And speaking of droids, I also liked seeing Hu Yang, the droid back in the Ahsoka trailer. Hu Yang, who was in that episode of the Clone Wars on Ilum.
Oh yes. The guy who helps make lightsabers.
Yeah.
Yes, voiced by David Tennant. How bizarre is that?
And he got an Emmy for that.
Yeah. And so now we have another Doctor Who Star Wars connection. How epic is that?
And
I am the Bindu.
And speaking of that, I mean, we see Sabine battling with a green lightsaber.
Yeah.
So is that her own lightsaber at this point? Because
I think it was Ezra's.
Or is it Ezra's? Right? We can't see the hilt enough, right? So we don't know if it's kind of that half laser gun, half one knot, or did he construct a new one when he was off in space?
That one got destroyed.
The saber blaster got destroyed, and his green one was a new one. He and Kanan helped him make a new one, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and I don't know. Yeah.
Presumably, this is the new one.
Correct.
But like you said, I only watched it once, so I didn't get a good enough look at it to verify.
It's a far enough zoom up. It'd be pretty tough to see, but I'm sure there's somebody out there trying to put it together. So, but yeah, so I mean, is that we're assuming Ezra's, or could it be her own at this point? Especially if there's a Ilum droid crystal guy running around the place, right? So,
I mean, surely Ezra has his lightsaber with him when the Purgil come and take the Star Destroyers to the outer regions, to the outer rim, right? Didn't he have his saber?
I don't remember, because if you think about, maybe she has his stuff, because there's that scene where she's looking at his little hologram picture. So maybe she has the remnants of the holocron. Maybe she has the lightsaber. She could have that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it is possible, even if he had the lightsaber with him when he did the Purgil jump, they're looking for him actively. It's entirely possible that they found his stuff. And
correct.
This is how they know that he's still alive.
Wasn't he a prisoner though when they did that?
Still alive.
He was a prisoner on that. He was a prisoner on that Star Destroyer when they did that, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he wouldn't have had that with him.
Thrawn jump.
Yeah. So Ezra was a prisoner at that point, so he wouldn't have been armed, at least not at that point. So that could have been taken away from him, when he was still in the city or something.
Yep.
Or he could have not taken it with him to the Star Destroyer, and he had stashed it somewhere else.
Yep.
Lots of
inside Chopper.
It's in yes.
Yeah, just waiting for a little.
Yeah, and we got to see Chopper. So
yes.
We had to see the live action Chopper, so that's exciting.
Did-
And he
you
was
know-
also he came out on the panel too.
Yeah.
It just occurred to me, something I missed about last week. I wonder if the area where Luke put his lightsaber in R2-D2 is where the probe is supposed to go. The one, like that's why
R7.
there's a hollow spot there, because there's no, like, somehow
R5
R2-D2's
has it.
probe-
Yeah, so you want one
What was
My
really
sister has it.
Yeah. My droid has it. Your droid has it. All right.
Sorry.
but so much great stuff in this. And I mean, just the action scenes like Lee talked about. I loved how she's trying to enter the temple and she does the old, let me just spin around here and make a complete perfect circle to break loose.
But she does it with the Force. She doesn't have her hands on the sabers. That's what I love. Like,
Yeah.
finally
Yeah,
somebody's
just
doing
like
that.
because I gotta take it. I gotta kick it up one more notch.
I love how everybody seems to be able to do this, but in the Phantom Menace, when Qui-Gon tried it on the doors on the droid control ship, it took him forever trying to cut through everything.
Come on.
I'm guessing because it was probably a metal versus a stone.
Yeah, I mean, it's an armored door versus rocks. So
Yeah,
It's a
but
guess.
we're
It's a
going to talk
guess.
about another armored door later today. So
Yeah, surprisingly. So yeah. So just so
Man,
much.
If I had a
goodness.
dime for every time we discussed armored doors on this podcast, I'd have 2 dimes, which is not a lot, but still weird that it happened twice, right?
open the blast doors. Open the blast doors.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, just a lot of good stuff. They even released the poster with Rosario on the front there, and the Ahsoka. We know we're getting it August this year, and I was trying to think, is there anything that would resemble a release warrant, a specific date in Star Wars history about in August? And I couldn't think of anything. Obviously, I didn't try Googling it, but just trying to think of it when I first saw it, I was like,
There's no anniversary.
It's
Yeah, I
15
can't
years
think of
after
anything.
the premiere of the Clone Wars. That came out in August of 2008, the movie.
then that's a good chance because that's the premiere of when we first got Ahsoka. So thank you, Lee.
Yep, that would be the first time we saw Ahsoka. Good,
yeah.
So
good,
there you
Wow.
go.
good deep cut there, Lee. Good job.
My ADHD always comes in handy, boys.
And August, you said August 8th?
Well, it was August of 08 when it came out.
Oh,
so,
08.
yeah.
08. Okay.
But I remember it was just slightly after my birthday in 08, and mine's at the end of July. So, and yeah, I'm a very weird person. So,
So you remember it.
yep.
All right.
It might
August
be 888.
15th.
Yeah, that makes sense.
August 15th, 2008 was when it hit theaters, which is a Tuesday. So it's either going to be the 9th or the 16th, I'm guessing, of this year. So because that's great for the 15th year anniversary. So, all right. Well, I mean, I could spend all day talking about Ahsoka, guys. You know that she's one of my top 3 Star Wars favorite characters, but we got a lot of other stuff to go. And Scott, you already mentioned a little bit, just a teeny incy bit at the beginning. To be fair, that was only one of 3 things, though, because we got hit with, and obviously, Scott, you could take a bow because almost 100% of your prediction did come true. Daisy Ridley did take stage. BB-8 wasn't there, though.
He wasn't there yet. So.
Yes. So you got most of it. And they came out and announced 3 movies. Which one you talked about there, right? That Rey, they're going to continue about 15 or so years after, finally the Skywalker saga finished, after we got the Rise of Skywalker. So about 15 years later, where Rey will not be the last Jedi, or at least tentatively at this point, right? So that's good. And not quite going to be 15 years by the time this movie comes out, but pretty close. Because to think about The Force Awakens and when that first premiered and we got first Rey, it'll be at least close to 10 years at that point.
Yes. So if it comes out in December of 25, then it will be 10 years since The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Now I'm holding out hope. I'm holding out hope that it will not be December of 25, but rather May of 25, because I want Star Wars to come back to the summertime. Mm-hmm. But they don't ask me about these scheduling things, so who knows?
Well, you got to remember, like every Star Wars movie makes $1 billion in December, so
yeah. There's a reason they haven't moved back.
Yeah. Well, actually, the main reason they haven't moved back is Marvel.
Yeah.
So depending on how
But
things
didn't
go,
say what the reason was.
it's just there is one.
There is
yeah,
one.
Yeah, and you're right.
So.
There is one, and that it starts with an M and ends with an L.
Yep.
But yeah, so I could see them making a change further into the future, not 25. Maybe the Jedi, the Birth of the Jedi movie, maybe one of those could be in the summer again, depending on how things are going with Marvel by that time. But who knows? But yeah, speaking of Birth of the Jedi, you're right, Derek. Rey's story is only one of the films announced, and that would be also the Birth of the Jedi film from the guy who James Mangold, who is
so Charmaine Obaid Chinoy's film will be Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker, or will be set with the with Rey, right?
Yeah, she'll be doing the Jedi Order thing.
Yep.
Meanwhile,
and she did Miss Marvel and Saving Face were two of her big things.
Yeah. And Mangold is famous because he's the guy. Well, he's got some films in his repertoire already, but he's also the dude who's doing Indiana Jones Part 5.
Because Crystal Skull does exist, even if we tried to forget it.
Right? Yes. And so apparently Lucasfilm was so enamored of James Mangold that they went ahead and gave him a Star Wars movie. And according to him, in his interviews, they told him, "You can do whatever you want."
Well, and to be fair though, he did make Logan.
Yeah,
Logan is a phenomenal movie. So
yeah,
Logan is a phenomenal movie, even if you don't care for superheroes.
Correct. Yeah. To me, it was always if Clint Eastwood and the X-Men met. So
right, yeah, which is apropos because in that film, Wolverine is basically Shane from the Western, and even gives that speech at Professor X's grave. Anyway, sorry, that's a whole different podcast.
And then hey. Nathan, you're getting your directorial debut of a movie that isn't a cartoon.
That's right. Yes, I've done plenty of cartoons, but I wish I had brought my cowboy hat.
You could have easily worn
with
it
the air beans, I could have worn it.
And this one we know what it's going to be about.
Yes, we know what it's going to be about. I've got a good plot synopsis written. I don't have all the dialogue in yet, but I'm not doing any of that. Dave Filoni is doing that. Yes, it's going to be to tie in all the Mandalorian era shows, including Ahsoka. Presumably, this is going to be the climax of all of this. So this is probably where we're going to see Thrawn and the end game that he has, and presumably our heroes will take him down.
I don't think it'll be the climax of them, though. I think it'll be a climax of a story. Because I don't think they'll end Grogu and Mando if season 4 continues the way it goes.
Climax of Thrawn, not of.
Although keep in mind, though, guys, we've seen some people, the way that Dave Filoni's been talking about this project, he's been dropping hints that the film's not going to come out for another 6 or 7 years from now.
Definitely,
so therefore it might be the end of Mando's story.
I think it might be the end of Din's story.
Yeah,
but
it's not the end of Grogu.
Of Grogu, we can get more stories about
he'll be crossover with Rey at some point.
No,
he can show
the
up
end
in
of
some
his
other
story
Vision
is
stories.
at the end of Kylo's lightsaber. I just want to see that. Just get him out of the story.
It's possible, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he has a cameo in Rey's movie in 25, implying that he's still around and doing Jedi stuff 10 years or 15 years after the Rise of Skywalker.
He's not doing Jedi stuff. He's doing Mando stuff.
Maybe so.
But maybe with the Darksaber.
Maybe. Oh my gosh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Did he kill
so Lee, here's my question for me, right? He wins by old age. He just outlives them all. Lee, here's my question for you. When we get that Dave Filoni movie to wrap up the Mandoverse, is the main bad guy Grand Admiral Thrawn, or has Thrawn been dealt with already and the main bad guy is still Giancarlo Esposito as Moff Gideon?
What I'd love to see...
Thrawn is the right
answer. Thrawn, obviously, just canonically, he is a better bad guy. I mean, we've got so many, great novels written about him. But what I think would be amazing, and we haven't seen it done well yet, but if it was Grogu, because we love him, but we've seen how dark he is. When he's trying to choke out Gina Carano, when he kind of goes to the dark side. I mean, he is in a mechanical suit, just like Darth Vader at this point. There's a lot of things, and he gave up the way of the Jedi. We like him doesn't necessarily mean he's a good guy. We're just following him, and there's worse people that don't want. But like, there's darkness. He's gone through trauma. Ahsoka was afraid to teach him. And Luke thought he could do it, but we all know that Luke wasn't really that great of a teacher. So
Luke
I think there's something.
his ability to teach. Yeah.
Like Obi-Wan did.
Yes.
Or like Anakin did.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Skywalker.
there've really only been 2 Jedi that we've seen in the movies that are good teachers, and that's Yoda, and even he had plenty of mistakes. But on the whole, he's taught a lot of people well. And Qui-Gon Jinn was a great teacher, but mostly because he was willing to break with Jedi tradition to be a better teacher.
Well, and if I may point out, Yoda had a Padawan who became a Sith. Count Dooku was Yoda's Padawan.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't even count Yoda in as a great teacher. He improved before he got to Luke.
I think, though, if you look at the totality of all of his students, and you've only got 1 or 2 Sith Lords, that's actually a really good percentage of success compared to other Jedi. When you look at
considering he's still at like 99.9999% because he's taught that many people.
Thank you. Yes, totally, Derek. He's look at all these. Yes, all right, fine. I had 1 genocidal maniac, but look at all these kids that turned out great.
No, see, here's the thing. Obi-Wan's the bad guy. Yoda's part of the bad guy. That's the reason why those 2 were the only ones that survived, and why the other bad guys were the students of, like the lineage from Yoda to Anakin is why they survived, and they weaponized Luke to cover up their mistakes. They weren't training him to be a Jedi. They sent him down the dark path and even warned him, once you start down the dark side, forever will it dominate your destiny. Hey, go in that dark side tree over there right now. Kill your dad, but we're not going to tell him he's your dad. Like, there is some darkness going on. Yoda was not that great.
They did some shady stuff.
Yeah, it was definitely, they were all, we need you to kill Vader. If you don't kill Vader, then, we're all doomed.
Mess.
Yeah, and then Luke was the one who decided, no, there is still good in him. I can save him, right? So,
But if you kill him, you don't need to save him.
But see, I think that was less that Yoda and Obi-Wan are not good teachers, and more that they were still too steeped in the Jedi tradition of, there is no way to come back from the dark side. And Luke's point was to teach them and us that you can be forgiven and have grace. And grace is an important part of the whole situation.
And also the Greek Easter.
And also Greek Orthodox Easter.
I think Lee will appreciate this. So Yoda is like the Mitch McConnell, the Bernie Sanders of the world, where when he was in his younger political days, he had good intentions. But once he got old and he started getting all that, kickbacks and all that, so maybe Yoda at the age of like 600-700 was on a good streak. But once he hit his last couple of, centuries as the Jedi Master Order, then that's when he was getting everything and he went all downhill. So.
I mean, you die a hero or live long enough to become the villain?
Yes.
live long enough to have Christopher Lloyd say Count Dooku was right.
He wasn't wrong.
Well, Dooku specifically said, Yoda is the problem. You don't stay in power that long and not either be corrupted or become blind to corruption.
Yes.
And that's what had happened. The Jedi in the prequel era just aren't aware of it because the idea of Sith being a thing is so foreign to them at this point in time that they just can't even conceive that it would be happening. And it's happening right under their noses.
Well, when Qui-Gon says, I met a Sith assassin, they were like, no.
And that's where we might get something at a tie-in with the Acolyte, right? Because if you think about that, to Lee's point, right? If Yoda was corrupted 100 years prior, not saying he did bad, but he was just blind then to that kind of corruption.
Yeah.
Blind to that corruption. Then who's he been teaching the past 100 years? Mace Windu, Count Dooku, Qui-Gon Jinn, all of them. So then, yes, then it is the pinnacle of blindness to corruption because then now everyone has been sitting at this is just it's the norm, right? They're used to it. It is that corruption.
The blind
leading the blind.
The blind.
The blind. Yep. Yeah. So. Totally. So we may, as you say, Derek, we may get to see some of that in the Acolyte because we know that happens sort of at the tail end of the High Republic,
like 100 years before, right? So,
and Yoda is a part of the High Republic era. He's been in the comics and so forth.
Yep. So, But anything else, gentlemen, from the other twos? Again, going back outside of tying everything together from the series and where we're going. Anything else? I mean, again, James Mangold can do anything. Again, that'll be that. And to be fair, though, just so you guys know, too, Kathleen Kennedy did come out during Celebration, and she did say that Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron is not dead. It's just off.
Yeah.
She did clarify. It's just off the table right now. So
I'm really happy to
there's
hear
a
that.
chance that
Yeah.
that could still come back in the next couple of years, 2-3 years, once they get another movie or two down. So we could still get that that in there. But definitely at this point, these three are what they're moving forward with. So
Yeah, I am happy to hear that, and especially because we saw Zeb as part of the Blue Squadron. I think he could play into that. I think they've had to shuffle some things around with that movie, and that's why it kind of got shelved. So it makes sense that they haven't completely killed it, but they haven't exactly announced that they're moving forward with it either.
Yeah, if I may make a point about Ray's movie, one of the major reasons I think that one's gonna happen is because we have a star attached.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the other projects, I think maybe all of the other projects, we've never had any actors announced, just directors or writers or producers.
Well, Filoni's is pretty much in the stone, though. If he's already come out and says, "I'm going to attach everybody else at this point."
Essentially, we have Rosario
Dawson,
and
Lars Mikkelsen.
Yeah,
well, you got Grogu attached to a money-making milk
Yeah.
machine at this point. So
If they don't
Yes.
bring in Lobot,
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
care. I want Lobot, damn it.
well,
that would be great.
It would be
Right?
great.
and we're still waiting for Donald Glover to actually get with Kathleen Kennedy too. Whether that's going to be a movie or a series, so that could potentially happen to be Solo 2 as well.
Yeah, and we've seen some headlines recently that Donald Glover is in talks to become Lando again.
So exciting.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't mind if that was more Calrissian and not Solo.
Yeah.
Well, if you've heard about talks, you do understand that everything you've heard about him is true.
Even the lies?
Especially
the
lies. Lee, what do you want to see in a Birth of the Jedi movie?
I would love to see where the fighting came from, and why we choose a lightsaber. I mean, we've got all these fancy things, reasons, but like, what was it that made them go from blasters to lightsabers, or slug throwers, or whatever the weapon was at the time? How did they discover that was how they would attune themselves with the Force? It's obviously swords are like the coolest weapon ever. They're the easiest weapon really to film a fight with. Knives are too small to see, axes are too cumbersome, spears are too long. It's the perfect for filming. And on a weird little side note, sword is the only weapon that is designed only to kill people. Every other category of weapon can be used as a tool or a hunting implement. Bombs can be used for mining, for controlling avalanches. Swords are only meant to kill men. And yet we've used this image as something to represent nobility and our higher purposes. And oddly enough, on Greek Easter, the only other symbol that we have like that is only meant to kill men, that has this great and peaceful and honorable symbol, is the cross. And we just, the way that the use has been changed into a different thing. So it's a very unique time in the history of the galaxy. Okay, why are we going to do this? And then I'd really like to see why they're like, okay, we're just going to let these wizards do whatever the hell they want, cutting people's arms off and saying Jedi business, leave me alone. What was it? Yeah. Don't depress me, or I'll cut your hands off. Which, sounds kind of Catholic. But there's some fun stuff to be done there. And honestly, I would just love to see pre-Galactic Republic technology. Where did it come from?
Very cool. Yeah. And of course, maybe this time poor Daisy Ridley will get a fair shake, because maybe we'll get a little bit better writing now, with Shireen tied to that, right? So Again, I'm not saying everybody enjoyed her work, but like I said, I thought Miss Marvel was pretty good. I enjoyed that. So we'll see.
Yeah, I hope that we will get a little bit of writing in. I'm still holding out hope that John Boyega will come back as Finn, and we'll get to see a continuation of his story and looking for those other stormtrooper, orphans or for their families.
Yeah, because that really felt unfinished.
Yeah,
in the sequel trilogy.
But I'd rather almost have that be separate, though. Like, to me, that's the problem with the Star Wars movies, that when it tries to do too much, it doesn't connect as much, right? I'm okay when you have the little battle scenes and stuff like that, but it felt like there was, like, if it goes beyond just kind of, and I guess they could in theory kind of keep it to 2 stories, because we still got that with Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, where you kind of got the splits. But Return of the Jedi got really crazy when you started having Endor and you started having the Luke and Vader and Yoda scenes and everything, and then you had all the space battle, right? And
the 3 theaters of 4 altogether.
Yeah, I was okay because it was kind of the final of the trilogy, right? And it was Bring It All. But if you think about what the best thing about A New Hope and to some point Empire Strikes Back was that it was mainly just one focused storyline, right? If it deviates a little bit, okay, and then they come back together, which is what Empire Strikes Back did. But A New Hope is really just one solid story, right? It's our heroes get together. Yes, you got the villains and all that, but it's linear, right? And it's the same thing with Rogue One. It's the same thing with Rogue One, right? Even Solo, right? So that's what they need to do. I just to get them pissed off, but just to make it funny, I hope John Boyega goes to Disney Plus just so that they could Disney Plus him. That he said he didn't want to be. But again, they'll throw lots of money at him, right, to do it, and that's fine. And that to me would be a nice 8 to 10 mini episode series, and get them to do that right. You could get Billy D. Williams to reprise his role for a couple of episodes there, and then get him to do a couple of episodes for whatever they want to do with the Lando Chronicles. But other than that, I think they should keep it separate, or unless if Boyega is somehow going to continue the Lego thing where he is Force sensitive and Rey is going to train him legitimately.
Yeah, which Boyega could be in the movie in that sense.
Yes.
And then you could actually have one storyline where Boyega or Finn is being trained, but has also worked with these stormtroopers, and at some point they work together, and that could be very reminiscent of the Jedi working with the clones.
It's a ring. It's like poetry and rhyme.
If it goes under one cohesive story, I'm good with that, right? Like I don't mind that. But if it's just going to be, we're just going to throw a cameo in with Finn and Rey together, and then it's going to be half this movie and half that movie, I don't want to watch that, because that's what we got with the sequel trilogies, and to me, they're bad storylines.
Yeah, it could work either as this is one storyline where they are working together, or it could work as this is a cameo where Finn shows up and they're like, oh, hey, Finn, how's it going with the stormtroopers? Great. Awesome. Move on.
Yeah.
But not halfway in between.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I kind of love the idea of doing a, echo of Jedi and clone troopers. And then we could even have a scene where Rey and her, fledgling Jedi Order are outnumbered terribly by whoever the big bad is. And she's like, we're not an army. And then Finn is all like, somebody call for an army. Boom! Him and all the
on your left
troopers show up. On your left. Yep. There you go. Avengers Assemble. Wait, no, sorry. That's Marvel. No.
Jedi Assemble.
No, that's right.
But anyways, so all right, sounds good. Well, again, we could talk forever about these because this is 3 separate movies, but we got plenty of time. So let's get on to some of the other topics. So the next one on a couple of shows that we have covered on here. Hey guys, Bad Batch is going to get a season 3. It is the final season, but it has been announced we will get a season 3 of Bad Batch.
I'm going to take the Quatloos on this because this is exactly what I said. I hope they get a 3rd season so that they can finish out the story, but I hope that they know it's the final season going in so that they can give them a good ending. I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yep. Nathan gets the 50 Quatloos.
Yep. And again, I'm hoping that as long as it's, if it's a good story written, all that, it could be the 18 episodes that it wants to be. But if it's not, give me 10 or 12 episodes, clean, no filler. That's it.
Yeah. Keep it tight.
So, Lee, are you
I think they
excited?
kind of learned that that's kind of what they need to do here.
Yeah, I am. I think there's obviously something that has to happen to the batch. They either die, they're disbanded. I'm still holding out hope that Echo is actually Elliot Kane. I think that would be just a terrific and sad way for that character to have gone through life. And
No. You mean Omega? You want Omega?
or
to
Omega,
become
yeah, Omega.
Kane.
I don't know why I
Yeah.
keep saying Echo. Yeah,
I was gonna say, like, I don't see
hey.
that working.
It'd be the
they've
first
already done so many modifications to him. So, yeah.
first transgender in Star Wars. Let's
Yeah.
do it, right? Let's come on. You got to do representation.
But no,
So.
but just the idea
One
of
little mistake.
One little mistake.
we don't see them in Rebels, but we do have Rex is still there, and if they were still an asset by that time, once Rex was involved, he would have brought them in because he knows what they were up to. He knows that they would have, jumped at the chance for that fight. And either they're out and they're living on, their little, island in the middle of nowhere that looks sort of like it's Middle Earth, or they're gone. And I'd like them to be gone, just so that there is some finality
Clean.
and consequences. Yeah, but I think that the way that they're weaving the stories inside of the movies now has really made it amazing. I mean, they started it with Clone Wars, which ended up making 2 and 3 better. They did it with Rebels, which really is added to so many things. And I think getting obviously they're setting up the cloning stuff for the Emperor. I mean, they did Project but they did say Project Necromancer, so
Yes.
there's plenty of stuff that's gone on. And I think the story needs to have a good end. And I think if somebody like Filoni knows this is how much time we have, they're going to give us a good ending.
Yeah, and I'm happy to have been wrong. I know I was saying this show isn't going to get a season 3. And I'm glad I was wrong.
Yep. So, like I said, as long as it's clean, like I said, keep it tight because we know. It'll be interesting whether or not this will be the end of Mount Tantus, though, or will there be something more to it, right? So, there could be a lot that could happen in this. Obviously, Scott and Nathan had disagreements there on the camera. You could see one shaking their head yes, one shaking their head no. Whether they agree or not doesn't mean anything, but the one was thinking this definitely could possibly be. The other one said absolutely no way, Jose. So, and it would be ironic, right, if Omega does actually fall to the dark side. I think Lee likes to see when children fall to the dark side. I don't know what this is right now, Lee. You got Grogu,
Omega,
you got
Grogu.
Mostly because it stays boring. I'm still of the opinion that Grogu should have stayed off the show. He hasn't done anything.
You and Favreau both, because Favreau, according to rumor, Favreau was all about, no, he went off to be with Luke, and that was the whole point of Luke showing up on our show. And Kathleen Kennedy and the Lucasfilm board were like, but Grogu,
money.
but money.
But it basically
merchandising.
But he hasn't added anything to the show this season.
No,
he's done
it's
nothing
not
other
really
than being
supposed to be.
adorable. Like he helped a queen cheat at bocce ball or something like that.
He did have that.
But like it would be a sad ending to the story, it made Din Djarin a better character, all this sort of stuff. Like it makes a better story outside of the merchandising. And if we have this, I think it would. We've already had these kids go dark, but we haven't really explored it in the same way as we could with this.
It wouldn't it be the greatest, dig for Favreau to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Be like, you're going to make me continue this. Yeah. He's going dark.
So you want me to keep him in the show? I will, but he'll be the spawn of Satan.
He will be the next Anakin Skywalker.
Age 67, Grogu murders a bunch of families.
Yes, that's right. He had barbecued those little baby birds.
Yep.
That explains what they were eating in this episode.
That's what I was thinking too.
Of course he wants to eat something, right?
That's true.
Always.
Bad baby.
No, sweetie.
Well, maybe that's what they do with Grogu. Maybe what ends up happening is he goes evilly, but then he becomes Gordon Ramsay. He opens up his own Sith Nightmare Kitchen, and he has to bring in people. and then that's what it's going to be, right? And he's just going to sit there and abuse people, and if they don't make it work, he kills them, right?
It's a cookbook. A cookbook.
Yep. What the WFD is this?
Got a Mustafar lava cake. You gotta definitely have that one in there. Yeah.
Master Grogu, is this recipe good? No.
Off with
and
your
then
head.
he eats the guy's children, you know.
Yes. All of your recipes must include baby frog eggs.
Well, that'll be the secret ingredient. We could have like an Iron Chef, right? You could have a Sith and a Jedi, and they have to fight them off, and then an Iron Chef, and then whatever happens, right? So
today's secret ingredient is younglings.
That's right. It's Sith Chef, and it's always like, today's secret ingredient is hatred. Okay.
Okay,
yes,
I think we've gone a little off the rails.
We have, yeah.
I mean, Derek, honestly, we're just printing some parody comedy money right now. Come on,
we are. Yeah.
So
All right, Derek, bring us back around to your list from Celebration, because we got even more things to talk about that were announced.
And another show that was actually quite unexpected, but I'm actually quite happy, especially if they branch off to something else other than what season 1 brought, was Tales of the Jedi is going to get a second season, gentlemen. And I know, Lee, you and me both really appreciated the Dooku side of things. Mm-hmm. I think Ahsoka was good, but again, I'm enough of Ahsoka, which again, I'm excited for the series, the live action, but I didn't really need this as much. But super excited we're getting a season 2, because then there's potential of that. So Lee, first thing that hits you when you hear that, as well as if it's not Dooku and Ahsoka, obviously continuation, who would you like to see be the fresh take of Tales of the Jedi for season 2?
Luke. We don't ever really have anything of him being a Jedi. We've got, basically 5 minutes worth of Jedi action from him in Return of the Jedi. You have him wanting to be one, leaving before his training is done in Empire Strikes Back. And, he fights his dad twice, and he, wins once, loses once. I want to see his growth in between Empire and Jedi. I think that would be a really fun time. It's unexplored in canon other than comic books right now. And even then, that's until it's on film, it doesn't count. But also, maybe some of the stuff that we'll never get of building the Jedi Order, little stories there. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see them do, go into the old EU, get Ulick Keldroma. I think that would be so cool. Somebody like that. Get Ben or Ben Solo, and see what it is that they do, how he grows and how he turns into this person. Get some Knights of Ren stuff. Enrich the story that was kind of shortchanged. And last season we got a better justification for Dooku turning dark than we ever did for Anakin. And I think if we can see the process that took Ben into Kylo, there's some really good story to be told there.
Totally. Yeah. And that'd be a good place to do it, without having to dedicate an entire motion picture,
Mm-hmm. And without, with apologies to Mark Hamill, without having to do some sort of de-aging process or recasting the character.
But he could voice it.
Mark Hamill can voice him just fine. And being animated, we can animate him to, they can animate him to whatever.
They can reanimate
it's
him.
Not me.
Yes.
And I just want to see like one version of him where he just loses his arm and he tries to put like a lightsaber extending out from his bionic hand.
I want that experimental bionic lightsaber should be yellow.
I was gonna say it had to be yellow.
Complete side note, weird on this podcast. I'm working on a Jedi proof of concept short film right now, and the lightsaber, one of them that I bought, is in kind of R2D2 colored. It's very subtle, but I made sure that it was yellow because that was like Luke's lightsaber, not only the action figure, but on the cover of Marvel Comics, that was what he was in like the little square at the top. Like that's always been like the lightsaber color to me. So I actually finally, after 45 and a half years on this damn planet, I have a yellow lightsaber.
Yes.
Victory. So, all right. So Nathan, Scott, who would your, two choices be for in-depth Jedi
Now
tales?
it's Luke, because I think Lee has made a very compelling case for Luke. But before he made that case, I was going to say Quinlan Voss is one that I would like to see more of. Although he's a bit lesser of a name. It's the first season. I mean, Dooku is a huge name, and Ahsoka, for anyone who's seen any of the animation, is a huge name. If you've only watched the movies, not so much. But so, yeah, I think going for big names like Luke is probably the play that they're going to go with.
But the cool thing about Quinlan Voss is they could show him how he's doing with the Rebel Underground.
Yes.
When you get the
Yeah.
Kenobi series, right? You could have
Yeah.
that where it's related,
Yeah.
right?
And that's part of why I would like to see him. And we've got some story already. With Ahsoka, the third episode was a story that's already been told and was just adapted for this movie. Quinlan Voss for this show, Quinlan Voss has appeared in other media in books, and we could get something like that for one of his episodes, and then we could also get something working with the underground. So there's a lot of there, so to speak, with him. More so than with a lot of the other background Jedi from the movies.
Yep.
I want Gunji, the Wookiee Jedi.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a cool place to explore more of his story. Or barring that, or maybe even in addition to that, a Jedi that none of us know. A Jedi from like way back in the day, like
High
almost
Republic?
Old Republic or High Republic era, that no one knows their name, and this is the only story we ever hear about them, but it's just another part of the Jedi mythos and experience. And so we don't know who this is until we see their story, but it's an important era of Star Wars Jedi storytelling.
I just realized there's another perfect one to use from the Clone Wars. Jedi Master, I'm a Gundai.
I'm not gonna die. I'm gonna
You remember?
No, I'm gonna die.
I'm gonna
No.
die.
I know exactly who you're talking about. No, I was going to say Vizsla.
Ooh, yeah.
So
The
here's
original
my
Darksaber story.
Here's my two original that I said when they first announced it. My first is Mace Windu, and my other is Darth Bane.
Ooh,
Because
Darth
because
Bane was
Bane
good.
is canon because he is in the extra episodes of the Clone Wars, right? The redef. So I'd love to see
Yoda
that.
identifies him and credits him with starting the rule of two.
Yes. But what
so
I
cool.
also would also like to see, and you were hitting it earlier, Nathan, was Quinlan Voss would be also, but parting with the other side of that would be Asajj Ventress.
Mhm.
And that's how you get them connected to each other in some part of the story, right? Where you would see that and the death of Asajj and Quinlan Voss because of the romantic relationship that they have in that story, which to your point, right? They took that exactly for that one Ahsoka episode was in the Ahsoka novel. So there's a very good chance that they could do it that way, right? But within the end of the Quinlan Voss section of it, right? Because they're going to have the 4 to 5 episodes intertwine. And then the 6th episode would be Quinlan Voss moving on from the death of Asajj and into that point of then connecting to Kenobi.
Right. Yeah, doing it as just those two, but framing it as those two. But then there's like 2 episodes where it's them
The
together.
interconnect. Yep.
That would be stellar. Yes, and I think what we've proven here is that they could do Tales of the Jedi for several more seasons.
Yeah.
And be good.
Yes.
On the subject of Asajj, I know it's canon that she's dead, but I would just love it if she was the armorer.
Oh, that would be awesome.
It's like, I mean, dual weapons. She never uses the backpack. She never uses blasters. She is, last time we saw her on Clone Wars, she was wearing a mask. This is the kind of thing. She would definitely feel guilt for what her actions did to Mandalore. Because, I mean, she sent, or basically got Asajj and, get him off, and he joined forces with Darth Maul. They took over Mandalore, brought all this down. It would be kind of an interesting path. I know she's dead canonically, but
So,
is anyone ever really dead?
where did she die canonically, or when was that in the book?
In a book, which
in the Quinlan Vos novel.
In the book, that's not really canon until we see it on screen.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Well, screen does it. It's technically canon, but when screen happens, yes, it overrides it.
Yeah. Screen overrides it.
Yeah.
It's like the Chuck Wendig stuff.
Rock beats scissors, but paper beats rock. Yeah.
Yeah. But Spock beats Lizard. No, Lizard beats Spock.
Yeah, paper disproves Spock.
But my point here, though, is if they did Quinlan Vos and Asajj Ventress, and they did some of the story from that book, they could easily change it to where, she's not really dead.
They don't do crap like that in Star Wars. What are you talking about?
To me,
somehow Asajj returned.
There we go. Boom. Problem solved.
To be fair, though, the only reason I'd want Asajj to return, though, is if she ended up showing up on the Ahsoka series. That's the only reason I'd want Asajj to return. Otherwise, I think earlier on, seeing her just in the cartoon version and we get her completed that way, I'm perfectly fine with it. Though the armorer would be fun, but I'll talk about that in my final predictions. Who I actually think the armorer is. So, but anyways, good stuff. But to Nathan's point, yes, this is one of those things where they don't have to put too much into it. You can keep each of those filler informational things about these unknowns to 3 episodes or 4 episodes, whatever they want to do a season, right? And you could fill in a lot of those gaps that we've talked about, right? The things that made episode 2 and 3 so much better was the Clone Wars. Now, granted, it was 7 seasons and, obviously we got Ahsoka, but you don't have to do that with every character in every series, just these little things. And that would be huge. So, yeah. Okay. All right. So, speaking of something that is coming soon, we know for The Acolyte, it was announced that Rebecca Henderson will play Vernestra Rawal in The Acolyte, and then that there was more from about the High Republic and The Acolyte and how it connects. So, Lee, you're kind of the more movie buff guy. Do you know Rebecca and her works?
I really don't, to be honest. And that kind of makes me happy because I like Star Wars when I don't know the names involved the way that it should be. There should be like a couple names on the sidelines to give it some validity, but let the new guys really step forward. And that means that we end up not having these preconceived notions of who this character is supposed to be, and we just let the story play out.
Yeah.
Yep.
I totally agree with that.
Yep. Nathan, I know you don't know Rebecca.
Oh, yeah. No, I have no idea who she is. But yeah, I mean, who knew Mark Hamill before Star Wars?
Exactly.
His parents.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. And I think that makes a huge difference. When we get to the sequel trilogy, a big part of the reason that people didn't like the sequel trilogy as much is because they had preconceived notions of this is what these characters are and who these actors and actresses are, that we just didn't have with the original movies.
Mm-hmm.
And the original movies were allowed to be those movies. Of course, even at the time, and people forget this at this point in time, but when Empire Strikes Back came out, there were people even at that time saying, this is the worst thing ever. This has killed the Star Wars franchise.
Yep. They'll never make another Star Wars after this because they let the bad guys win. How terrible.
Yeah. So.
No, very cool. So we know a little bit about Vernestra currently, or Vern, as they say, Vern, as her nickname is known. So Vern is a newly minted Jedi Knight. Vernestra Marilon was Padawan to Stellan Gios. She works hard and is devoted to the Jedi Order more so than most others her age. At 16, she is one of the youngest knights in a generation. She struggles to fit in with the adults while also setting a good example for the younger Jedi. So this to me sounds like it's the antagonist, the protagonist. I don't know how you want to label it, right? Because the Acolyte is our main character here, right? Or at least we're assuming. Or is this going to be like a detective series? There's still obviously a lot to unknown at this point. But this might be our heroine character in the
Yeah.
series, and her side of the story, right? And so whether we get the 16-year-old age version of her or not, or this young portion and how she's having to deal with the acolyte, or is again this is a much older version of her at some point, because again I don't know much about Rebecca. I didn't even Google her to even know how old she is and whatnot. So but Vern is she at, it doesn't say what type of alien she is. She's the green alien, and from the picture it looks like she's got the one green aliens or the colored aliens with the tattoos a little
So
bit
she'd
on
be
the
a Mirrorlin.
Mirror.
Like,
Okay, she
like Barasofi and
okay. Yes.
Master Luminara.
Yes. So she will be a Marilyn. Okay. So very cool. So that's cool because that'll be a live action Marilyn.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that's pretty nice. Yeah, that's
All right.
great. I like this idea, and she very much would be, in a classic literature sense, the antagonist
Mhm.
to the acolyte's protagonist.
Yeah.
Even though the acolyte works for the dark side and is ostensibly evil, she's still the main character of that series. She's the protagonist, and so Vern here will be her opposite number. So yeah, I think you'll see them duel, and they'll duel with sabers, and then other times they'll duel with words, because that just seems like this kind of a story, which I think is cool. And it sounds like Vern is going to be the classic teen angst, but with a Jedi flavor.
well, and I just Googled Rebecca Henderson. She is 42 years old. So this is going to be an
Oh.
older version of Vern.
Okay,
So we might not to say we won't get some younger scenes of her,
right.
right? As
Some
she's growing
flashbacks.
up.
Some massive de-aging technology here.
But it sounds like Vern, because the introduced is in the High Republic novels and comics. So that's where they'll
Okay.
probably have her younger story age, though. Again, be cool to see some of it hit the live action scene, though. But yeah, it sounds like this is a more older version, which is good, though, right? Because I do think this will be more of the detective novel type deal thing. I think would be really cool, right? To see that side of take, I guess, or whatever I want to say, that side of filming or story plot in a Star Wars universe.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And ever since you said, "Hey, Vern," I can't get it out of my head, realizing that the character's full name is Vernest.
Yep.
Or Vernestra. Like, if they didn't do that on purpose, I'm mad. If they did it on purpose, I'm mad. Like,
Is she going to save Christmas though?
That's
That's
right.
the real question.
Or is she scared stupid? So,
Is
no,
she
I
gonna
think
say-
she's going to jail. She's going to jail.
No, she's going to Jedi camp. Hello.
there you go.
You know what I mean, Vern?
You know what I mean, Vern? So yes, it would be. So.
Well, here's your problem with this lightsaber.
Jim
The
Varney,
Kyber
rest in
crystal has
peace.
got a
Great-
little
great stuff.
short in it. Okay.
Yes. All right. So, all right. And now the last little bit of news before we hit the last climate thing, because we've been already running an hour at this, guys, because there's just so much
Yeah.
to talk about Star
So
Wars
much.
Celebration 2023. We got our big baddie announced from our big giant comic crossover, Scott.
Yes.
And it is
Evil
actually going
droids.
to, and it's going to be a horror event too, as well.
Mhm.
So it's going to be
Yeah.
dark. And yes, it's going to be evil droids. They are the dark droids.
Yeah, I haven't been as excited about this as a Star Wars horror crossover since they did the whole original version of Death Troopers, where Han Solo and Chewbacca had to fight those zombie stormtroopers in that one expanded universe novel back in the day. So this is a great idea of having evil droids, and I think that they've sort of been setting the stage for this kind of thing with the Mandalorian this season, with all the stuff going on with the droids in the previous episode. And then also you've had a lot of droid interaction with the Bad Batch.
Wait, are you telling me the Blackjack episode wasn't just filler?
That the Jack Black episode was not just filler. There's probably stuff from it that will influence other parts of the Star Wars galaxy.
And just so you know, Lee, if you didn't open up the link, the cover of the Dark Droids #1 has got Luke Skywalker with a yellow lightsaber.
That's
and
right.
his Yavin jacket, which makes me very happy. That's just cool.
Just we're going real splinters of the mind eye, huh?
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I'm hoping so. And we have that old Tales of the Bounty Hunters where IG-88 started a droid revolution. If we have it happen in the right time frame, could explain more of Din Djarin's aversion to droids. And it could be the reason why that he's kind of had this going on, not just the Clone Wars, but more. And I think that'd be kind of a cool thing.
We saw IG assassin droids in the Clone Wars, so it's entirely possible that IG-88 was around in the time period necessary.
I mean, IG-86 was working for Zero, so. So I mean, they go back that far. I think there's
they only need 2 more to get to 88.
Yeah.
But is there a 99 or is it a 0? Which one's the last one?
Ooh, good question.
And is that where 000 comes into play because they ran out of IG droids?
I'd like to see what this whole Dark Droid arc, what kind of effect that has on Dr. Ephra and her droid friends. Because, she's got some cybernetic stuff going on. And, of course, BT-1 and 000 are already evil. So, it's like, I, for one, welcome our new Dark Droid overlords.
Maybe we'll get a crossover with Bender. So.
Yes.
Bite my shiny metal ass.
So, I mean, all they got to do is get the head of. I mean, there's no Nixon, but who would be the head of in a jar that would lead the droid revolution? Who would we do that? Would it be Tag?
Cool. Some Ugnaught who's all like, I'm tired of your nonsense. I'm gonna raise up an army of evil droids and just get off my land.
I have
spoken.
Ponkrell.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
That'd be a big damn jar, but that would be.
It'd be a jar and like 4 jars for hands.
That big.
Like a keg.
And he could do he could still keep the Nixon voice. Like he's got a Nixon face anyways. All right, droid army, let's go attack.
It'd be in a Bacta tank. There you go.
That's it.
All right. Well, I'm sure we could talk for another hour or so about celebration stuff, and we probably will circle back around.
And we got 2 years to prep, Nathan, for the next one because it's not
I
till.
was about to say, in Japan, I will not be attending.
So there's a 5% chance that I might be able to find some way to make this happen and go with my Matthew, because the one foreign country he's always said he wanted to visit is Japan, and he is a big Star Wars fan. I might be able to pull this off, especially if my cryptocurrency hits it big between now and then.
Well, good luck, because I don't eat Asian food.
Yes.
So I would starve to death. Can't go.
You guys are breaking up on my end. Did you say Matthew was interested?
Yes, Matthew is a big fan of Japan because he
How
loves
is Joseph
anime
not the bigger fan, though? He's the anime.
You would think that he likes anime more so than he does the.
Did he freeze up for you too?
Yeah, he froze
culture,
up.
I think.
There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Yeah.
Yes. He's
okay.
He's something that broke up.
Yeah, so he's much more of a fan of the anime than he is the culture, I think. Although, to be honest, if I'm able to pull off a trip to Japan with one of my kids, I'm gonna have to take them both because that would just be mean.
But if he's never been to Japan, to be fair, I mean that's like literally moving to like living in an anime world. So the fact that you could have it, I mean, you could literally walk in every other store is some type of anime store.
Yeah.
So, anyways, if you do go, Scott, I'll go with you though. If you guys can pull that off,
I'm in. Let's do it. So.
All right, there we go. We're taking it on the road, guys.
I'm sure Mita would come. We just won't take Nathan because, like he said, he would starve to death because he won't eat Asian food. And by all the food there, by definition, is Asian. Even the Kentucky Fried Chicken.
It's true.
In a McDonald's.
It's very, very true.
There's something that my very first time competing in Asia, I went to the World Championships in Busan, and our head coach made the hotel reservations for us based on price. And the most affordable hotel he could find was where you'd meet the finest prostitutes in all the land. All the rooms were themed. And so we get our keys, and it's me and this guy, Doug, who I still hate to this day, in a room with one bed, very romantically themed in a Korean way. It was just the oddest thing ever. And the toilet was just in the corner. They didn't have a separate room. So I think
Lord.
this has got to be the way that we redo it. So I'll find the best hooker hotels we can, and we'll do it upright, gentlemen.
If I want
So
to do
about that
that,
whole Nathan not going thing,
100%
doubling down on
not
that.
going. 100%.
to be fairly, if we really wanted to do that, we could do it a lot cheaper. And locally, we could just go to Gen Con like we would normally do, guys, right? Where we just book into like 20 people in one room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got some bad stories about that.
So,
Yeah.
all right. So, 2 more years to prep up for Star Wars Celebration 2025, as they are going to take a break in 2024. Which is good because I mean that makes Star Wars a little bit more desirable. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of good stuff coming out next year. But yeah, I think to your point that we talked about, Scott, the next time that they have Star Wars Celebration, which now will be 2025, they will legitimately have trailers to drop for one of the new movies. So
Yeah,
So.
definitely.
but anyways, let's take a break and let's listen to Kevin tell us a little bit of what's on the FPNet network.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. Here are the other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. Culture Clash, where we discuss the latest in entertainment and pop culture. Blooded Kings, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theater, we celebrate our favorite movies. And Time Warp, our Fandom Flashback show discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie, TV, and pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Hair Metal Podcast, we cover the rock metal music of the 80s and early 90s. Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, discussing the time-traveling Doctor Who universe. Lethal Mullet, an action film podcast covering the 80s, 90s, and beyond. Also, check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, our Star Wars podcast. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast with a deep dive into the final frontier. The Fandom Show, our Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube show discussing the hottest topics in fandom. The True Believers MCU podcast discussing the Marvel Cinematic and Television Universe. Union Federation, our Star Trek and the Orville show. And we're proud to welcome the BQN Network to the Fandom Podcast Network. Please visit our friends on the BQN Network, a Star Trek Universe podcast that also includes your favorite topics, movies, history, superheroes, and more. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube. The Fandom Podcast Network is also on all major podcast platforms. The Fandom Podcast Network audio master feed is on Podbean at fpnet.podbean.com. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
All right, awesome, great, thanks, Kevin. So yeah, we'll jump right into some Mandalorian discussion as we get ready to talk about the penultimate episode of season 3, and then maybe talk a little bit about what we have predicted for the season finale. So let's go ahead and do 3 questions this week, since we've already got quite long in the tooth on this episode to go so far. Lee, what was your favorite thing about this week's episode of The Mandalorian, The Spies?
Just a giant Mando versus Super Commando gunfight. I mean, how there's no other answer that comes close, except maybe eating the baby eagles. Like, I know they kept a third one, just in case they get hungry on the way back. But honestly, that fight was awesome. It showed, there's all this stuff like, oh, they went down like a bunch of punks, like how they, they're supposed to be these great warriors. The truth is, historically, warriors always have a worse time against organized troops. These are guys that fight individually rather than as a team, even if they are on the same side. A organized group of troops with interlapping fields of fire that understand how to move as a unit are always going to have a tactical advantage, even over much better trained individual warriors, which is who they were fighting. Now, when you have an individual warrior like Tar Vizsla smacking 7 shades of crap out of everybody, I think you get a pretty interesting and different story. But honestly, that fight, we haven't gotten something like that from Star Wars really ever. I mean, we had splashes of it at the end of Revenge of the Sith. Like, oh yeah, here's this crazy thing, but like it was all quick, little cutscenes. This was hardcore. This was awesome.
Yeah. That was like long, drawn out fight scene, choreographed by masters, and just really great.
Oh, and as soon as you go down that hallway, oh crap, Gideon's there. Like we know that's where they were.
Immediately we knew that this was a trap,
Yeah.
And the Mandos were,
and that's how bad Gideon is. He literally blew up their homeworld and then took it over.
Yeah, totally.
And as a point of pride, I am sure.
Yes,
Mandalore will live on in me. I mean, come on, man. My man. It's crazy.
ultimate bad guy stuff. Good stuff. All right. So, Nathan, what was your favorite part of this episode?
Well, we have the Shadow Council with all the Imperial warlords, and there's a couple of things I loved about that. One, I love seeing all the warlords in their various states of dress, where they're clearly, and when they ask them, or when he says, "Oh, I only take care of my sector, no more, no less," and all of them were like, yeah.
Well,
yeah,
me too.
Me too. Totally. I don't go outside my sector at all. That
Just
was
like
great,
the ISB in Andor.
I was going to say, it's like,
yeah,
the same kind of guys.
But
greed is a powerful.
There was one character there that as soon as I saw him, I'm like, I'm 99% sure I know exactly who that's supposed to be. And the dialogue confirmed it, and so did the closed caption. Palin.
Yes, Captain Palin. Yep.
Yeah. So we have a Thrawn connection right there. And he talks about Thrawn too, but seeing a character from Heir to the Empire, he was always one of my favorite characters from that book series, because like it was interesting to see the mindset of an Imperial who believes in the Empire, and not really because he's evil, but because he believes that this is the best way to go about it. But who had lived under Vader and was used to the way Vader did things, and we could see the difference in how Thrawn did things. Just always loved that character. So glad to see him. And I'm going to talk about him again when we get to the what do we think's happening next week.
Cool. Derek, what did you like best about this episode?
Again, it was just a really fun episode. I loved the West Side Story Mando knife fight. That was a lot of fun. And then just overall, I thought the visuals were pretty good. It seems like the biggest thing, and we'll talk about the predictions, right? But I just like the visual cues of like the little things that they took into consideration, right? Like they just didn't land on Mandalore and go back. Like they're having to deal with the bad weather. The little things, the visualization cues about that. It's just, again, really fun episode overall. I wouldn't say there was anything that extremely, other than, the Grogu scenes were fun. They were cute, no squeezy, type deal.
Yeah.
And that he's like, oh, this is not IG-11, this is IG-12. So, is he really just because he called them, IG-11, it just made sense to call him 12? Or did he actually go out and get IG-12's body? That's what I want to know.
He just promoted him by a number.
He just promoted him. Yeah, that's it.
So shouldn't he be IG-11B then at that point? So
IG-11A.
Or it could be A or point one or point 2, whatever version.
Yeah.
So anyways, but yeah, nothing stood out super about this episode. It was a good episode to get to the season finale. It set up everything.
My favorite part, tremendous fight scene, continuation of the Praetorian Guards show up to finish off Paz Vizsla after Paz mops the floor with all the super commandos. The Praetorian Guard. Oh, so cool. When Moff Gideon mentioned requisitioning them, I didn't think they were going to be exactly like the ones from The Last Jedi. I thought there may be some proto Praetorian Guard, and maybe even that was the name they were going to use for some of those guard droids that we had seen in the Ahsoka trailer, and that was what was going to show up, or even that we might not even see them in this episode. It was just something that Moff Gideon was talking about when
That's
he
what I
was
thought.
requisitioning the TIE fighters. But no, they showed up. They were the same dudes. They had the same weapons, and they just rocked the socks off of Paz Vizsla. What a heroic way for him to go out.
Which makes what happened in The Last Jedi even more impressive for Rey and Kylo,
Mhm.
that they were able to take on these characters that just obliterated Vizsla.
Yeah. And so,
Well, you would hope though.
Yeah,
that they
but
would
again,
be
this
better.
is Mando informing the sequel trilogy.
Mhm.
So just continuing the theme of we're building on it. Yeah.
Yeah, no
All right.
doubt the Praetorian Guards are definitely more trained, right? They're better than the Royal Guards.
Yeah.
They're the next iteration.
Yeah.
So
Right. Okay, Derek, what did you dislike about this episode?
So a couple of things I disliked about this episode, and it's not super end of the world type deal thing. But the first one and the major one is that they killed Vizsla. And it was a bad week if you love Star Wars and Star Trek. Because two beloved characters that and we've had a little bit more time with this one, but I didn't think he needed to die because again, he's not just an unknown character, right? There's a bit more to his name, and I would have liked to see more with that character. Right now, they can always put it off with his son Ragnarok or whatever, and just at this point, that's okay. But I had really liked where they were going with this character, showing some growth because there is some history with the Vizsla, with the Darksaber. He's always had some portion to that, and I feel like it was almost kind of like Din's yin and yang to some degree at some levels. And now that they were on kind of the same side, he had to die because then there was no yang to Din's yin anymore. But overall, I didn't like that. I would have liked to see them do more with that. And I think that, again, if they're going to go beyond a season 4 at some point, I would have loved to see, him, again, what they could have done with Vizsla, because there is so much tied to the Mandalorian. And the other thing was, it was just, again, kind of nitpicking a little bit, just because I thought, to be fair, this whole season was going to literally be on Mandalore. I didn't think it was going to be kind of this, we can go as we please, right? Because we've only been here a couple of times now at this point, and it's been literally, pretty short. And when they landed and we got this really cool, gliding ship and everything like that, I really wanted like the whole season to be on that ship and how they had to get to the furnace or get to the waters, and it would have been like a whole Mad Max apocalypse season. I really would have liked to seen that a lot better, or at least been a little bit more longer than we would have gotten the 10-15 minutes that we did once they got back onto Mandalore. So that was my two nitpicks. Again, nothing detrimental. Again, the episode was fine. It was fun. Obviously it didn't deter anything from Star Wars Celebration. And obviously it kind of leads us up into season 3 finale, which we'll get to at the end of what I think it is. So
for me, the only thing I really disliked about this episode was Grogu in IG-12 going with them down into the segment, and he's all like, all right, kid, you got to keep up. And like Grogu's in the firefight, but he doesn't have any weapons. I mean, I know he has the Force, don't get me wrong, but like they don't give him a blaster to shoot with his IG arms or anything like that. Or, they don't let him borrow the Darksaber. I mean, he's just all like, I can do the magic hand thing, and that's about it, right?
Doesn't do the magic hand thing.
And then he doesn't do the magic hand thing, and he's just running along. Like, I'm like, if Din can bring Grogu in his IG-12 suit, how come Ragnar isn't there to help his dad? And maybe Paz wouldn't have died, But yeah, I get that Grogu has to be there because he's a big part of the show, but it's also weird that all the other children and women and the wounded people specifically were all taken back up into space by the armorer. I mean, shouldn't Grogu have gone along as one of the other kids?
He's almost like a pet now at this point, right?
He's like a mascot.
Yeah, he's just a pet. And that's to Lee's point. That's the problem they did with this, that it's now literally Grogu's just a side character because they didn't write Grogu in beyond season 2. So
right.
that's
Favreau
why
was all like, I don't know what to do with him, which is like Lee said earlier, he was relegated to being the Queen's corgi at the Jack Black episode.
Mhm.
So yeah. Lee, we can't hear you. You're on mute, Lee.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, if he'd been doing something and if he'd been useful at all this season, other than, telling R5, go to that planet so that we can get somebody else to rescue my dad,
right?
That would be interesting. But, neither here nor there. I do find it odd that he's walking around inside the body of his dead uncle.
Right?
Yeah.
And or the body of the guy who tried to kill him.
Yeah. Either way,
as an uncle, that's
weird.
the same thing, buddy.
Sounds pretty
That's the
evil.
same thing.
Sounds pretty evil to me, right?
It does. Yeah, that's a good point. He's necromancing it. Come on, guys.
That's like necromancer.
And he's helping royalty cheat at games. Like, I mean,
And bocce ball.
yeah.
Nathan,
Well,
what did you dislike?
For me, the thing I disliked the most was the destruction of the ship. I don't even know what to call it.
The ice skiff.
The ice skiff.
Yeah.
Glass skiff, because
skiff,
theoretically it's all on glass. These people have theoretically been hanging out on the surface of Mandalore since the end of the war, or even before that, since the Purge, and they've survived. And then within 15 minutes of meeting them, they go straight up to, didn't look like a mythosaur, some other type of gigantic creature that immediately destroys their ship.
Yeah.
Like, what did you guys just forget how to use this thing? Why introduce this if it's not going to survive for the next 5 minutes?
Yeah.
So yeah, I wasn't huge on that. And the other thing is, the title of this episode is Spies, and shout out to Skywalking Through Neverland, but Richard didn't get to be the rebel spy.
Sorry, Mr. Woloski, but once again, you are not the rebel spy.
All right. And Lee, what did you dislike?
Honestly, on this one, it really is kind of the fans, the reactions that everyone's had, the spy versus spies kind of thing. People are being really crappy to each other about something that they didn't write, that they weren't paid to write. And I keep on seeing this whole thing come up. It's not canon if I don't believe it. It's like, no, it's canon if the people that bought it from the guy who sold it say this is how it goes. We might disagree with it. I still think Heir to the Empire is the movie that they should have made. And it's still something they could. But
they are.
That's my opinion, and I'm
they're definitely taking major portions of it, even if they're not exactly doing it.
But we're getting really bad about this. We don't own it. It's not ours. Mm-hmm. We get to enjoy it. Speaking as somebody who makes movies, when there's a story I want to tell, I tell it, and I work with people and I get this stuff done. And the amount of work that it takes to get a 7-minute movie. I just finished or just had a premiere last night of 3 7-minute movies I did for a film festival. The guys that are sitting at their keyboard complaining about this stuff, you have no idea how much work has to go into it and how many people you have to be nice to, how much crap you have to eat, asking for money, the problems that your actors will cause, problem safety causes, problem cameras cause. I had a movie that I shot in October. It was so cold out, the view screen on the camera froze. The camera was still running, but the view screen froze. And we had to reshoot everything. We had to come out on another day, and it was storming. So we kept on having to reshoot. When we talk about this is horrible, this is that, it's until you've done any kind of work like this, just shut up. The worst Star Wars that we've ever seen is hundreds of people working harder creatively than most people will ever do in their life, and just sit back and enjoy it. It's a story, kids. It is not your childhood. I think your parents contributed more to that, good or bad. Your friends contributed more to that. It's a part of it. It's obviously very important to me. We're sitting here on this podcast, but we can have a fun conversation and not be Nazis and not be
Yeah.
horrible to each
Haters.
other. Yeah. And I think that's kind of been my thing this season is people are getting really nasty to each other, and just let the story be what it is, man.
Yeah, that was my point with last week's episode. I like to watch a lot of reactions to Star Wars beyond our own, and the people who look for all the details and here's X number of things that you missed, and here's all the connections. I know we do some of that. The places that's their stock and trade, and that this is how it should be. Those people who hated the For Hire Jack Black episode, the outlets where people are just like, we're going to watch this, and whatever happens, and that's that we'll let the story be the story. All loved it, and that's how we need to be. Is to say, what, just we'll let the story be the story, and that doesn't mean that I love every episode, but I accept the episodes for what they are, and don't hate them because they aren't what I would have done.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, moving on to question number 3. Lee, what connections were you able to draw with the rest of the Star Wars galaxy?
I mean, obviously, once we have Captain Peli in there, we're getting that. The mismatch of all the officers. We've got the warlords that we've been talking about. We've got even a little bit. We saw how that was working in Andor. Can I call myself magistrate? And you have these different high-ranking officers kind of taking over things, and even in A New Hope, where he's talking about, well, if they've dissolved the Senate, how will they maintain order? And the local governors will maintain order in their systems, blah blah blah. They've already been prepared for this kind of thing, so I loved seeing that. And then honestly, just seeing the Dark Troopers again, but in the white uniforms. So that we have that connection to the season 1 of Bad Batch. We've also got connection to the Imperial Super Commandos from season 3 of Rebels. We kind of have some cool stuff. And there was a part of me that was just hoping to get Gar Saxon. Gar Saxon just dropping in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been Ray Stevenson again, and I would have oh no, I get to watch him kick another ass. But sorry, fun. But that was just really cool to see.
Yeah, that's a good connection. Of course, I've already mentioned the Praetorian Guards for a sequel connection, but we also had General Hux's dad, Brendel Hux. Admiral Hux, you know what I'm talking about. Hux's father, Brendel Hux, was there, and he was talking about having Praetorian Guards and having TIE fighters to give to Gideon. But then he and Captain Pillin were kind of going back and forth about Thrawn. So it was cool to see that guy. The first place I ever learned about that character's name was in the Star Wars Phasma novel from the sequel trilogy tie-in novels, and that was really great.
Oh, you're beating me. I learned it from the closed caption.
Okay, well, hey, all right.
Well, it's a really good connection, though, because it's not just the Phasma side of things, too, but it's also wasn't he in the Aftermath books as well? Or at least mentioned a bit, right? Because he's the one who owns everything when First Order is essentially created. He has all the inventory, right? So it's great that they kept him, with that. Even though we don't like Chuck Wendig, at least there's some unity to it. So. Right,
and he's in this episode of Mandalorian. He was still once again in charge of supplies and munitions and all that stuff. Yeah, so he's still the quartermaster, if you will.
Yes. So,
Derek, what connections did you draw?
I want to have a giant kaiju battle between the Mythosaur and that rock beast. That's what we need.
Yeah, there we go. Star Wars kaiju.
And yes,
apparently,
and apparently Mandalore is full of deadly beasts everywhere. That's where they pick the same planets where they have all these giant beasts, right? So maybe the Armorer did pick that planet with the giant alligators and pterodactyls on purpose because it was the closest to Mandalore.
They found some peaceful planets that would work. Where they're there's just not enough kaiju level.
Yeah, can't stay here, guys. It's too boring.
I was
There's just
forgetting
a
to raise
squirrel
these
with a
foundlings.
flute. Who cares? Yeah. Although I want to say, Derek, you just stole my answer to the question 5 that we're not asking. What do you hope to see next week? Like, I wanted to see like the kaiju battle. I wanted to see like Boba just jumping down on a Rancor and just smacking crap out of something.
Yes, and then Bo-Katan comes with the Mythosaur to save him, right, in the wrestling match because the Rock Beast was going to beat Boba, right? So, and with the
And Boba's
chair,
like, I rode one of those ones.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what?
And then we
He's
get
got
Gypsy
the-
Danger in there somehow, and it's all good.
Yeah, he's got the
and
Amban
then-
rifle and he's all goading it with the prods.
I was going to say, and then Din has to throw Boba his rifle
Yeah,
because then that way they're all having it, right? So, yeah.
All right, Nathan. What connections did you draw?
All right. Well, you guys have covered most of the connections that I saw, but I did want to highlight the Hux thing with the title "Spies" as for the episode. His son turns out to be the spy.
I'm the spy. Yeah,
In
the Rise of Skywalker.
probably one of the worst line readings.
Yes.
Like, I'm the spy. Like, no kidding. Like, we caught on when you shot your own troops.
What I liked was
Fulcrum. He was not.
No.
No.
Well, I enjoyed Finn and Poe having diametrically opposed reactions to that. Finn going, "What?" and Poe going, "I knew it." And he's like, "No, you didn't." Anyway, yeah, that was good stuff. Yeah.
So
Okay, all right. Well, so we're not going to do questions 4 and 5 this week because we're already at an hour and a half worth of podcast, and we don't want to keep you guys here forever. But we will do a "What do you expect to happen for the Mandalorian season finale" to wrap things up. Derek, what do you predict for the season finale?
So, Lee had his wish list of Asajj Ventress being the armorer. I think I'm going to, and maybe I don't think we've talked about this, but I think the armorer is going to be the big reveal of Bo-Katan's mother.
Ooh,
Because we don't know anything about her yet. All we know is her father and her brother, right? And then, and everything with that.
Your sister.
Our sister.
Mhm.
Sorry. Yeah.
Who's
Sister.
dead?
Is good,
Yeah.
quite dead.
Yeah.
Quite
16.
dead.
Yeah. So sorry. But I think the armor will be her mother. And I think that's the connection, big reveal we're going to get at the end of this season. Because, I don't know. There's obviously, because now Gideon has the dark. Well, he tossed.
He doesn't
wants the dark saber. No, I'm saying he wants the dark saber, so he's going to go after Bo-Katan, and Bo's gonna be like, "We have to go rescue Din," and Armor's gonna be like, "No, we need to survive," and then she's gonna be like, "And I'm your mother," and she's gonna pull that line or something like that.
I am your mother.
No, she's gonna say, "Bo, I."
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Like, cut her damn hand off.
So-
Gideon
This is the
never
dark saber.
told you what happened to your mother.
Right.
He told me enough.
He told me he killed her. Wait, why are we having this conversation? Yeah, anyway, so my prediction is counter predict the whole narrative online right now that the armorer herself will turn out to be a traitor. I don't think that's going to happen. I can see why people think it's going to happen, but I say it's not.
That's why I don't think she's a traitor. I just think that's
Right.
why we're gonna find out she's Bo-Katan's mother.
Right. I'm predicting that Grief Karga will lead a allied force of people who are friends with Mando to come help rescue him. And so we'll see Action Jackson going at it again with Apollo Creed there making his Apollo Creed there making his return as Mr. Grief Karga there comes to fight and help save the day.
So does the Mithril show
and-
up?
I'm thinking the Mithril might actually show up because I actually think a few of Dan's underworld friends that he used to interact with when he was more of a bounty hunter will actually show up, along, of course, with Carson Teva and perhaps even Zeb.
Well, if we're going to have his friends show up, then we should have a whole phalanx of battle droids show up sent by Jack Black and Lizzo.
Yes, that would be cool. I would be happy to see them. We reprogrammed the battle droids to go help rescue the Mandalorian.
These were the ones that were affected by the Nepenthe, so we needed to do something with them, so we sent them to you.
Yeah. Never mind that they're now murderous psychobots.
But they're murdering the right people, so we're okay with it.
Yes.
I'm feeling that. That's my prediction.
and to be fair, we haven't seen the scene that they showed in the trailer a while back, where they showed the Imperial droids in the fires in depth, where we thought we were going to get background to the Purge. So that could be still a scene that we see, whether that's past or that's current. Imperial droids, K2SO family coming alive. So,
yeah. All right, Lee. Did you go already? I forgot. Have you predicted yet?
I have not.
Yeah.
I stole his kaiju.
That's right. You stole the kaiju. That's right. Yeah. Lee, what's your prediction?
The armor is going to die.
Okay.
I think that just the precedent of the person leading their lost people to the promised land, not being able to go into the land of milk and honey, kind of stealing that one from Moses. But knowing that they got there, I think that we would have somebody truly complete a mission and have nowhere further to go. I think the sadness of her not being able to see the forge or not being able to work the forge would be something that would live on in memory and song. I think, but yeah, I would want to see that. I would really want to see
after she reveals she's the mother of Bo-Katan.
Yeah,
that makes it more meaning, right? If she's the mother and she dies, right, then that's Bo-Katan's mission.
Yeah. Well, my theory was that it was actually what's her name from Rebels, her mom, the other Mandalorian Duchess,
Sabine Wren's mom.
Yeah, because she kind of did that similar style helmet. She didn't have the horns, but she was doing the cape and everything. I could see it being her, but still, you'd have that connection to past lives and trauma, and that reminder of what Clan Ren did. But
take my mask off.
Yeah, because I mean, if we look at the path that the Armorer has had, just in this show, she has been shepherding and protecting, and taking care of younglings. She didn't really want to help Din, but she's looking at Grogu, the Mandalorian foundling, who hasn't broken the rules yet, who's still a foundling, and she's recognized that because she made the mail shirt for him. So she has this soft spot. She tries to save Ragnar when the crocoturtle shows up, whatever we want to call that damn thing. She's got a thing for the younglings, and she's taking care of them. And I think that dying and knowing that she has accomplished getting them their homeworld back would be a good character arc for her, because otherwise she's just going to go to the forge and not do anything again, because we've got the warrior leader in Din Djarin at this point, and Axe Woves, and we've got the political leader in Bo-Katan. So what would her purpose be at this point? And I think a good cinematic, drama-worthy death in victory, Tony Stark style, would be the way to do it.
Yeah, totally. Well,
I was gonna say real quick though, Scott, would that be cool though, if when she dies there, then Lee, that she gives her armor tools to Bo-Katan to take them, right, as she's carrying it on? And would that not be a cool homage, Scott, for our friend Eric Walker, when what's his name hands his axes to Mace?
Oh
yeah, totally. Tukachak, I think. Yeah. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Apologies, Eric, if I said that wrong. But we definitely remember you're talking about the axe passing down the heirlooms, as it were. Anyway, Nathan, you were going to say?
So I promised to talk about it earlier, and I didn't mention it with the parallels to other Star Wars thing, but I think the Darksaber will continue to easily slice through metal doors in a way that Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber didn't.
Yeah.
Somehow it has to be a Trade Federation medal.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Or Duke just didn't train him well.
I saw a really cool theory about lightsabers on the internet earlier this week or last week, about how sometimes they can cut through stuff like a hot knife through butter, and sometimes you hit like Darth Vader's shoulder armor with them and nothing happens. And the dude was theorizing that what if we don't understand the way lightsabers work, because they're so bright when we look at them, they look like one solid tube of energy. But what if they work like regular swords, and there are certain cutting angles like a sharp edge of a plasma blade or a dull edge, and you can hit people with the flat of your lightsaber just like you can with your longsword.
And the darksaber, you can tell that it has that
because the darksaber is an older and more, I guess, expertly crafted lightsaber from way back in the time of antiquity. So the cutting edge is more obvious.
Yeah.
Can I also, one other thing? It probably won't happen, but I want it to. I want IG-12 to pick up the darksaber and just straight up murder Moff Gideon.
Yeah,
I
that
just
would
want
be
that
cool.
to be the kaiju battle for the
He's gonna
ages.
chop his head off.
Yeah.
But while Grogu is controlling it, and it's all like, oh, of course Grogu knows how to use a lightsaber like an expert. He was at the friggin' Jedi Academy, way back in the day, right?
Yeah.
He studied under Kelleran Beck himself.
That's right.
The last prediction I have is that Grogu's going to get shot in the chest.
Yeah, Grogu's got to take one in the chest, and everyone who
the
isn't
mithril.
us, everyone.
That spear would have skewered a wild boar.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, Frodo got stabbed by the...
Yeah, because Din's
mithril.
not there, right? So
Yeah.
it'd be the only one that would know. So
Well, yeah, we got to see. Everybody else is all freaking out. Oh God, they killed the baby, and then he's all like, "Well, I'm okay." And like, Grogu, are you going to survive? Yes. Did it hurt? No. Anyway,
well,
okay.
and I don't think Gideon dies though, Lee, because I think Gideon's too smart for that. I think to answer the original question we had way back up front of who kills who, Thrawn's the one who has to kill Gideon, because that's how it's going to tie in. Because Thrawn's that much more smarter than Gideon, right? He knows
It
that
would be
Gideon's gonna
cool
try.
if, like, almost an after credits type scene where Gideon comes to Thrawn to report, I screwed up and lost Mandalore, and they got one over on me, and Thrawn is all like, good, that's fine, I forgive you, stab, but you're also going to be killed because that's how I roll.
I don't know. See, but that's not how Thrawn rolls. That's how
But see,
Vader
I don't
rolls.
think they're gonna finish it this season. I think it's gonna be, this is like season 1 / or the way kind of that. I don't think they'll have a happy ending. I think this will be Empire Strikes Back, where it's bad, where they may retake Mandalore, but Din's gone with Moff Gideon, right? And
Din gets frozen in carbonite.
Something, right? So that's where I think the season's actually going to end, and that's how season 4 is going to go. And but again, the only real reason Din and Bo-Katan can defeat Gideon is because Thrawn kills Gideon. That's the only way that they're able to be successful.
I see that, but like there was a way back at the series finale of Angel. One of the best deaths I've ever seen on screen was when the host killed Lindsay, who was like played by Christian Kane, long-haired kind of badass guy, and he like joined forces with him to defeat, whatever the big bad was. And then the host, just this really nice green guy that everyone loved, just straight up shoots him in the chest, murders him. And the dude is like, "You don't kill me. Angel kills me." Like, and he's just like, he's shocked. Like, this is not the way he's supposed to die. And like, I want to see like the surprise, the complete betrayal, like the complete understanding, like this isn't the way my story was supposed to be written. And like, if it is Thrawn, yes. Or if he's got another Nogri guard, which I think I want to see in live action.
Oh, yes, so good.
But like just having Grogu, because he's got the best reasons to kill this guy. And again, if we get a Dark Grogu, it starts with a good vengeful murder.
It's a good clean head.
Did you
head
kill
slice.
this guy? Yes. Yes.
Well, but then once he slices his head off, then the lightning has to come down and shuck IG-12, right? As he's getting his
That's
power.
right.
So.
Yeah.
There could be only one. Yeah.
Oh well.
Thank you.
So, but don't worry. When we get to talk about next week's episode, you'll hear it here first on What a Piece of Junk. So, but before we get to
yes.
So.
But so for our last thing on this episode, we got to do Derek's favorite part of the show. What Star Wars t-shirts are we wearing this week? And I'll kick us off because I knew we had so much Mandalorian to talk about. I had to once again wear my Mandalorian shirt where we see Din Djarin using his jetpack, doing the thing with his Amban rifle and all that stuff. So once again, big shout out of thanks to friend of the show, Steven Suits, who got me this shirt when he was doing his most recent Galaxy's Edge gallivanting. Nathan, what are you rocking here?
I got the Wookiee of the Year Actually,
No.
beware of Wookiee.
Yes,
Sorry,
there you go.
different T-shirt. There's a Wookiee.
He's got some Wookiee.
It's some Wookiee.
Of course, it's always a Wookiee or Filoni.
Yes,
Pretty much.
We went out to eat tacos before tonight's podcast recording, and the lady at the cash register was all like talking to her coworker. No, it's a Wookiee, from Star Wars, because she was asking her, "Is that a Bigfoot shirt?"
I did not catch. I thought they were talking about your shirt, and I didn't catch the whole Bigfoot thing.
Yeah.
But they one of them definitely was like, I do not know the Star Wars.
I do not know the wars in the stars. What is it you speak? All right, Derek, what shirt do you have on?
I mean, not too long because I got something else to show.
Oh,
It's meant to be
nice.
Ahsoka because we have Ahsoka,
Yay.
right? So I've shown that
Yeah.
one before. But so Scott and Nathan know that I was doing a bit of garage cleaning this weekend. And I was going through rummages of stuff that I've collected as a Star Wars fan 40, almost 40 years ago. But I pulled out one of these things, which is a few things I'm going to keep because not everything I was just trying to pawn off you guys if anybody wanted it. But I have this here. It is a still film, 70 millimeter original film from Empire Strikes Back, pre-tainted special edition.
Right.
So
Nice.
and it's a scene. I don't know if you could see it too much. It's in Yoda's hut when Yoda is looking up when Obi-Wan is first communing with him in regards to training Skywalker. So anyways,
Cool.
I'll have things to show over the next several months as I continue to clean out my garage and pull out the Star Wars stuff I'm keeping. So yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Lee, what shirt do you have on?
Well, I'll just scruffy
Yes.
Nerf herder.
Scruffy looking Nerf herder.
Scruffy looking Nerf herder in Star Wars font. Good times.
Yeah.
Yes.
I saw this. I'm like, damn, I gotta have that. So yeah, wore this at lightsaber practice today because I am that level nerd. My entire day has been about Star Wars. 3 of the guys that were there are old enough to remember that being a thing people said, and so yeah, we the old guys laughed, and then we had to explain it to the young people, and they're like, "Oh, okay," and they started scrolling their text. So,
Some nerd thing.
yeah.
Yes.
As
Yeah.
they scroll
All
on
right,
their
great.
TikTok-ish.
Yes. Well, all right. If you guys want your own cool What a Piece of Junk t-shirt or mouse pad or coffee mug or stuff from any one of the other Fandom Podcast Network shows, please head on over to tpublic.com and search up user Fandom Podcast Network, and you can check out all that cool stuff. Now, normally we tell you all the places to find the podcast and whatnot at this segment of the show, but everybody already knows the answers to those things. And if you want to find us on Twitter, well, you can check out the show notes, and we'll see you there. And if you
We're
want
tired.
more of Mr. Lee Fillingsness, just check out the Blood of Kings podcast here on FPN. But other than that, I think it's time for me to tell Nathan to punch it.